Someone you love is going to die. Maybe they already have. Maybe you have sat beside a body and felt the strange, impossible weight of a person who was there and is now not there. And in that moment, your brain did something it has done for a very long time. It searched for a ritual, a thing to do, a way to make the unbearable make sense. But here is what almost nobody tells you. That searching is not weakness. It is not grief making you irrational. It is one of the oldest things a human being can do. And it reaches back so far into our past that the story of what ancient humans did when someone died is also, in ways that will surprise you, the story of what makes us human at all. It starts in a cave in South Africa, roughly 300,000 years ago. In 2015, a team led by paleoanthropologist Berger made a discovery deep inside the Rising Star cave system outside Johannesburg. They found something that changed everything scientists thought they knew about early human behavior. In a chamber so narrow that only the smallest researchers could squeeze through, they found the bones of at least 15 individuals of a species called Homo Naledi, a small-brained, ancient human relative that lived long before our own species, Homo sapiens, existed. The bones showed no sign of predator attack, no carnivore tooth marks, no signs of flood or water deposit. The bodies had not been dragged there by animals. There was no other explanation that held. The only conclusion was one that shook the field to its foundation. These ancient humans, with brains roughly a third the size of yours, had deliberately carried their dead into the deepest, darkest, most inaccessible part of a cave system and left them there. They were burying their dead 300,000 years before anyone thought that was possible. This changes the question entirely. The question is not when humans started caring for their dead. The question is why. Why did it matter? What did they know or feel or believe that made them carry a body through a dark passage to give it a place? The answer lives somewhere between biology and mystery. When a person dies, the people around them experience something neurologically violent. The brain, which had modeled that person as a permanent fixture of reality, a presence that shaped expectations, behaviors, routines, even the sense of safety, suddenly has to update that model. And it cannot do it quickly. The brain resists. It keeps generating predictions that the dead person will appear. It keeps expecting the sound of their voice, the habit of their presence. Grief, in this sense, is not just an emotion. It is the brain trying and failing to delete someone from its map of the world. For ancient humans, this would have been devastating in ways we can barely imagine. There were no hospitals, no hospices, no funeral homes to take the body away and make death tidy. The person you lost was right there. And the group, which depended on every member for survival, had to keep functioning. Ritual was the solution, not because ritual is magical, but because ritual gives the brain something to do with grief. It gives the unbearable a shape. It says, there is a right way to move through this. There are actions to take. There is a before and an after. And when your brain is overwhelmed by the chaos of loss, a sequence of prescribed actions is the cognitive equivalent of a handhold on a cliff face. Archaeological evidence suggests that Neanderthals, our closest extinct relatives, understood this instinctively. At Shanidar cave in northern Iraq, researchers found the remains of a Neanderthal buried approximately 60,000 years ago. Around the body, they found clusters of pollen from flowers, wildflowers that would have bloomed on the hillsides above the cave. Paleoanthropologist Ralph Solecki, who excavated the site in the 1950s, argued that the flowers had been deliberately placed on the body as an offering, that a Neanderthal 60,000 years ago had picked flowers for someone who had died. The flowers debate has continued for decades. Some researchers argue the pollen arrived via wind or burrowing animals, but other burials, at sites across Europe and the Middle East, show patterns too deliberate to dismiss. Bodies placed in fetal positions as if sleeping, red ochre pigment rubbed into bones, tools and food left beside the dead, animal antlers arranged overhead. These were not accidents. These were choices. And choices about the dead reveal something profound about what the living believed. Red ochre is particularly striking. It appears in burial sites across Africa, Europe, and Asia, spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Ochre is a pigment that ranges from yellow to deep red. When mixed with fat and applied to skin or bone, it produces a vivid, blood-like color. Anthropologist Francesco, who has spent decades studying ochre use in prehistoric cultures, argues that the repeated association of ochre with death suggests a symbolic connection to blood, to life force, to the idea that something essential could be preserved or honored even after the body stopped functioning. Ancient humans were not just disposing of a body, they were making a statement. The dead person still mattered. Their remains deserved care. Whatever they had been in life left a mark that did not simply vanish when they stopped breathing. This is the birth of something enormous. Because the moment you treat a dead body as something that deserves ritual, the moment you pick flowers, rub pigment into bones, carry someone through a dark cave to give them a resting place, you are doing something that no other animal on earth does. You are asserting that existence has a meaning that outlasts the body. You are behaving as though the invisible things, love, identity, memory, spirit, are as real as the physical world. Anthropologist Ernest Becker won the Pulitzer Prize for his 1973 book, The Denial of Death, in which he argued that the awareness of mortality is the engine of human civilization. The knowledge that you will die, and the terror that comes with it, drives humans to build things that last, create art, form religions, raise children, join communities. Anything that gives life a meaning larger than a single body's brief existence. And that knowledge, that awareness of death as a fact that must be faced, almost certainly began here, with the first human who looked at someone who had died and could not simply walk away. Different ancient cultures developed wildly different answers to the same question. What happens after? Some buried the dead in the ground, in the fetal position, facing east, toward the rising sun, as if the person were simply sleeping, waiting to be reborn with the morning. Some left bodies on raised platforms to be cleaned by birds, returning the flesh to the sky. Some buried the dead beneath the floors of their homes, keeping the ancestors physically close, sleeping above them every night, as if the boundary between the living and the dead was just a few inches of packed earth. Some cultures practiced secondary burial, burying the body first to let it decompose, then returning years later to collect the bones, clean them, paint them, and rebury them in a final resting place. The bones were handled with tenderness. They were arranged. They were sometimes bundled with the bones of others, whole families gathered together in death as they had been in life. These practices share something. In every case, the living were doing something for someone who could no longer feel it, could no longer benefit from it in any material sense, which means the ritual was never really for the dead. It was for the living. Grief researcher William Worden identified what he called the tasks of mourning, not stages you pass through, but active work the mind must do to accommodate loss. The ritual practices of ancient humans map almost perfectly onto this framework, acknowledging the reality of the death, processing the pain, adjusting to a world without the person, finding a way to maintain a connection with the dead while moving forward with life. The burial was not superstition. It was psychological technology, developed over hundreds of thousands of years by human beings who had no other tools for the most difficult thing a mind can face. And here is what stays with you. When you stand at a graveside and feel that strange mixture of emptiness and the need to do something, to say something, to place something, to mark the moment, you are not performing an empty tradition. You are doing exactly what humans have done for at least 300,000 years. Your brain is using the same ancient tool, that was used in the Rising Star Cave, in Shanidar, in burial mounds across every continent on Earth. The flowers someone laid on a grave 60,000 years ago, and the flowers you might lay on a grave today, are separated by an almost incomprehensible distance of time. But they come from exactly the same place, the same need to say, this person was here. This person mattered. And the fact that they are gone does not mean they are simply gone. Someone you love is going to die. And when that happens, the thing you reach for, the ritual, the gathering, the need to mark it, is not weakness. It is the most human thing you will ever do.